In my professional life, I help families navigate the complex and emotional process of getting support for their aging loved ones. But I want to start by admitting something. It's not easy. I lost my grandfather. I called him my pap in 2017. It was every family's worst nightmare, an accident that happened in my grandparents' home. And since then, we've been trying to convince my Grammy to accept a little bit of help. We've nudged, offered options, explained how to take off her plate, taken her for tours of senior living communities, suggested options in her hometown, in a bigger city, near where my mom now lives here at the beach in North Carolina, but she's firmly, passionately against all of it for years. As someone who guides other families through this every day, it's been frustrating. I know what help could do for quality of life. I know how support could extend her autonomy, not take it away, but I couldn't get it through to her until about 6 weeks ago. We were talking on the phone, and I was walking her through the kinds of things an in-home caregiver could help with, kind of talking about my job and what I'd been through that week. She was not so politely dismissive. Grammy has a bit of a feisty streak, until I said, someone could come by your house a couple times a week and curl your hair. And she kind of lit up. This is something she hasn't been able to do for herself in probably a decade. She paused and she looked at me and she said, "They do that?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely they would. We do it all the time. They'd help clean out your closets, drive you to appointments, sit with you and keep you company." Something shifted in her in that moment, and she agreed to let us schedule an in-home assessment with a local company. She has a caregiver now who comes twice a week. She's thrilled, looks forward to it. They cleaned out her pantry. They're working on her closets. And I realized, of course, I know it's not about logistics and logic, but for her, it was really about keeping the parts of herself that matter the most intact. And that conversation really reminded me of something I've always believed deeply. And it's that we tell new parents all the time that it takes a village. But we stop saying that to people in middle age and beyond. And the truth is, it still takes a village, especially when you're caring for your parents, your kids, and trying to hold everything together.
Well, hello, this is Don,
Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
and this is podcast number 179. And we're talking with Megan Baldoria. Is that correct in saying?
Baldoria.
Baldoria, okay. Business Development Manager at BrightStar Care. Megan joined BrightStar Care as a Business Development Manager, bringing with her a strong background in sales and marketing within the senior living industry. Originally from Martinsburg, Virginia, Megan holds a bachelor's degree in biology from West Virginia University, where she initially pursued a path to becoming a physician. However, her passions for making tangible differences in people's daily lives led her to fulfilling a career in senior care instead. Since relocating to Charlotte metro area in 2017, Megan has demonstrated a commitment to improving the lives of seniors by building relationships, enhancing community outreach, and driving occupancy in various retirement communities. Her transition to BrightStar Care reflects her dedication to expanding her impact on the home care side of the industry, where she aims to bring the same level of care and commitment to clients and their families. On the outside of work, Megan enjoys traveling, riding horses, kayaking with her husband and their dogs. Her guiding principle is rooted in the belief that everyone deserves compassionate and personal care, no matter where they call home. And so, Megan, welcome to our podcast. So we're really glad you joined us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you both for having me.
I love your story, and it just speaks to, as an occupational therapist, I'm always looking to engage with people in meaningful and purposeful activity. And that's amazing that you connected because having someone to curl her hair was something of value to her, and that got her to bring down those barriers to be more open about having help. Um,
And for all the years that we've had these conversations, I can't imagine it's the first time that I brought it up, but there was something about the way we were talking that day, the way I said it, that it was like a light bulb clicked with her.
And the way you described in the story, you kind of said that first, which may have been the difference.
She
That
hadn't tuned me out yet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because you put blocks up and things. Oh, she's going to give me this lecture again about having help. I don't want people in my house, blah, blah, blah. And oh, someone helped me curl my hair. I mean, um,
I've been looking for that for a long time, and it just doesn't seem to affect me, but I'm glad it did for her.
it's curling mine wonderfully.
Uh, well, the first thing I kind of wanted to, I was looking over your website today. You and I just met a day or so, a couple days ago,
Yeah, last
prior,
week, I think. Yep.
yeah, and but I was looking over the website, and you guys have such a gambit of things that you can do for the family. So I'd like to at least try to encapsulate somehow what BrightStar does in less than an hour's time.
It's one of those things. I felt really lucky to come onto the team with BrightStar Care. We are a franchise with more than 400 locations across the US, but each location is individually owned and operated. So Carrie Sanders is one of our owners here in the three of the North Carolina offices. We cover about 11 counties outside of the greater Charlotte area and the North Mecklenburg strip. So Carrie's been here with BrightStar for something like 14 years, and kind of worked her way up into the ownership. And the really special thing about BrightStar Care is that we're not limited to doing only the non-medical things. So of course, we can really kind of guide our clients from early of just kind of needing help with maybe we're no longer driving anymore. We need someone to help us get to our doctor's appointments all the way through kind of end of life. We can do non-medical so we can help our clients get ready for their day. We can do things like curl their hair, help them clean out their pantries, but we can also do medical things. We can do wound care. We assist clients who have ventilators. We have clients on feeding tubes, so our nurses can come out to the home anytime, any day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We're really here for our clients. And we offer nurse case management as well. And then also therapy services in the home. So we do physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy in the home with the help of our partners, Thrive Now Physical Therapy. So we're really, when somebody gives us a call, we're able to kind of do everything for them. We partner really well with palliative and hospice care groups as well. You could use both at the same time. We do that all the time. So really our goal is to be an extension of our clients' families. We want them not to feel like just, someone's coming in for a shift with their loved one, but that they've brought in another person who's going to love and care for their family member the way that they would.
So last week, talked about the difference between home health care and caregivers at home services. So it sounds like you incorporate both. It sounds like you kind of outsource the therapy component. The nursing part is within BrightStar that you.
So we do it. It's kind of an interesting relationship there. Thrive Now, they work out of the same office that we do. They have the children's therapy clinic even here in our office as well. So while they're technically two separate companies, we kind of function as if it's all in-house. Everybody's here together physically. So the interdisciplinary teams work really well together. So we really are able to kind of roll it all in as one great service to offer.
That's wonderful. And just a question about typical caregiver services aren't gone through insurance, but I know nursing care can be. So is that something you navigate as well?
Absolutely. One of the really, I think, wonderful things that happened in 2024 is Medicare released what they call the GUIDE program, GUIDE. And so this allows any person who has a dementia diagnosis, Medicare will cover $2,500 a year of care. So that can be in-home care through an agency like ours. That can be adult day center care at somewhere like Gracious Living here in the Charlotte area. It can also be communities who will accept a respite through that GUIDE program. So with us, that gives clients 80 hours a year of care. And they can really use that how they want it in 4 hour blocks. So they could use 20 days, 4 hours of care, or they could do, a 3.5 day respite weekend if someone, if a caregiver needs to exit and maybe get a little break. So that is, while most insurance doesn't cover the caregiving piece, we are starting to kind of see a little bit of that change with things like that guide program. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that. I work in an independent living community right now, and many people need caregiver services. So I need to research that some more because costs is often an issue. And
Absolutely.
and I know like if they have need skilled nursing care, do you guys handle, billing insurance with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're typically, for most of our skilled nursing, is typically private pay. We do work with some insurance companies. It just depends on the coverage and that kind of thing.
So,
One of the things you asked is, what are some of the hurdles that people run into when they're really, that well, if one, we always like to start early with this and but once they've decided something, they need something, what kind of hurdles do they run into when they do that?
So I think most of the hurdles people run into tend to be emotional. And the first and largest one that I personally typically have seen is guilt. You get adult children who say, well, I promise never to put mom in a facility. And first of all, those of us who work in this industry hate the word facility. We prefer community or home, or whether it's a spouse who feels like it's their responsibility to take care of their partner, no matter how difficult that becomes. We see this especially in between couples where a husband feels like, I married my wife, she took care of the kids, and now we're in our aging years and she needs help and I should be able to do this. And people will kind of run themselves into the ground, feeling that way, being afraid to ask for help, feeling like it's some kind of weakness asking for that sort of help. And you see people manifest physical issues because of the stress of caring for their loved one. And it's so difficult to be in a place where your loved one is no longer able to care for themselves
mhm.
or to make choices, safe choices for themselves. So that's definitely one of the biggest hurdles I see to people getting care in general, is that they feel guilty about it. And that's what I feel like it's my job to remind them that those of us that work with seniors, we're here because we love it and we're here to support you, whatever that looks like. And I think a lot of people too, there's a term we call anticipatory grief, which is grief that people experience before they lose their loved one. When someone's seriously ill, when they have a condition like dementia, and you're really kind of watching your loved one's personhood change into something that you're not used to. And so people kind of more in this gradually as they lose their personality, independence, and even their relationship the way it once was. And that is probably the other thing that's the most difficult for people, because they have this image of how their parent or their partner or their aunt or their uncle, whoever that loved one is that's aging, has been for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And what life is like on the day to day now can be so different. And it's emotionally gut wrenching.
It certainly is. My dad had Parkinson's, and in his later years had dementia. So that's exactly the experience that we, went through. And you said a powerful thing in your introduction about it takes a village. And I don't know if helping people to kind of think about in that aspect, just like raising kids, you need support. They're going through special challenges, special medical issues, whatever's going on with the person. Um, that it's okay to have outside help and support, just like you would, with children. And it's
I've been working in senior care for about 6, 7 years now, and I'm in my early 30s now. So when I started, I was in my mid to late 20s. So kind of that age where everyone around you is having babies has been kind of where I've been the past decade or so. And so all the time I'm hearing, it takes a village, it takes a village. I don't have children of my own, at this point, but it's just something you hear constantly. And as I was started working in senior care, I thought, gosh, when do we stop saying this to people? Because we should really continue saying it forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's powerful because people used to live close to their loved ones and it was easier. I know, Don, you talked about with your grandmother, she traveled around to different families'
Oh God,
houses.
yeah.
Not that that was ideal, but you lived close enough to each other to be able to do those kinds of things. And obviously, families that kind of grew up in this, same home, right there with each other, that's often not the case now, and it is more challenging. You have children who live states away or busy traveling, and people moved. I see it all the time, especially in the greater Charlotte area. People moved here because they got to that place in life where they needed support, and one of their kids lives here, and so now they're here. Um, and Yeah, so just even though they have a child here, they're still busy and they've got their own family, and there's still that component that it's not um, necessarily everything they need for support, and just knowing what companies are out there and what different services are out there. I'm just excited to learn more here about BrightStar because I don't know how long have they been in the area?
So the our office here in Cornelius was the first one that opened. It was originally in Concord 14 years ago. The
Okay.
Gastonia office has been here for 12. And then Carrie actually just opened the Denver office back in September.
Okay. Okay. I've
Never
heard
kind
it
of
and I've
go around Charlotte.
associated I've associated it with pediatrics, probably because I'm an occupational therapist and I might see physicians and on the pediatric end of things. But
Actually, of course, most of our business is geriatric, but we do actually service pediatrics through geriatrics. So we can assist people with children who need help at home as well, whether those are medical needs or a parent with a child who really needs a caregiver, and maybe their primary caregiver needs a break or needs to go to work or those kind of things. We can do that too.
it's so fitting with our business, and this podcast really revolves around caring for the whole family, caring for our children, our loved ones, ourselves, and so it's just such a perfect fit.
Us too.
Well, my grandmother hated that though method because it was like about every month and a half they'd move her to another, and it was one of her own kids, but it was just this change of atmospheres over and I mean just constantly over and over again, and she hated every bit of it. She didn't like being away from the house anyway, which I think most people that age don't want to be away from their house, and I think that's one thing that when I was looking over your bio is that you're really about aging at home, that whole idea of it. I think that's wonderful.
I think too that's probably, at least it seems, watching trends in the industry, that seems to be where people want to be.
Mhm.
People want to stay in their homes. They want care to come to them. If they do go into a senior community, the trends we're kind of starting to see are smaller communities. We're seeing a lot of what we call family care homes here in the greater Charlotte area. So 6-bed communities that were either homes converted into a community or built from the ground up to be for senior care, but to be small. So you have, one or two caregivers there, more one-on-one care, especially for people who are experiencing any sort of memory loss. Those living situations seem to be the way the industry is moving.
When I think even we've been looking a lot into even technologies and things like that are getting more and more wanting people to be at home and doing the technologies that can keep them at home. Do you guys do a lot with technical things with
So we don't, I think we're kind of starting to see that through the industry in general. I know there was a program when I was working in communities that was called Safely You, and it was essentially a video camera system that was in our apartments in our dementia care unit. And essentially, the cameras could tell if a person had fallen. And what they would do is they only recorded during a fall. So they would essentially back up, record for a few minutes, and then they would call the community. And that way somebody would answer. It would say, a resident in apartment 16 has fallen. The caregiver could go in, check on the person, and then also review the footage to see what caused the fall. So I think we'll start to see a lot more programs like that, and they worked really well. I was back in we called it Revere community where I worked, and I had gotten down on the floor to get something, to pick something up, and the community got a call that someone was on the floor, and it was me.
That's funny. I love that technology because, yeah, I work with patients all the time, and a lot of times because they fell and they don't remember exactly what happened. So that's kind of a neat ability to kind of see what, contributed to that fall, because that's often a big mystery. I don't
Yeah,
know. I just got
absolutely.
up out of
Especially
bed and I fell. I don't know what happened.
especially people with dementia that, I don't know. I found myself here on the floor, and there's
Yeah.
really, it could be, I mean, we couldn't have rugs on the floor in the community, but especially in a home setting, it could be the foot on a rug, or, whatever, slipped on a dog toy, whatever it may be. And sometimes that thing has moved, or you've crawled somewhere else, and that's not even actually where someone fell.
Yeah. Um,
Well, just kind of, we kind of talked about it, but you can, for instance, like you have medical staff that you can even take care of medicines and all of that with, so that because you talk about, Gina, that it's stacked up in a lot of the places you've gone,
well, the other caregiver agencies that are non-medical, I have family members who don't understand that they're not filling up their pill cases and they're not handing them their pills. They're just checking in. Have you taken your medicine? The good ones will actually look in the pill case and see. But so if with having nurses in place, that's something that you guys can provide with nursing
And don't get
care.
me wrong, our clients definitely still ask our home health aides and our CNAs to do their medications. At that point, when they do start asking that regularly, that's when we can say, okay, you know what, I think it's time to have one of our RNs come in once a week, fill the pill box on Monday, and then the caregiver can ensure we've taken the meds throughout the week. And then all of our care plans for our clients, there's RN oversight there, a director of nursing. We have one for kind of each territory and a half, and both of their first names happen to be Jessica. But so the Jessicas keep up with those care plans, and go out and reassess every 90 days. That way we can ensure that if there's been any sort of status change for any of our clients, our nursing team's really on top of it, as well as any visits to the hospital. We're going back out for a reassessment to make sure the care needs haven't changed
Sure.
for client.
So on that note, tell us a little bit what it looks like if someone wants, like, your grandmother agreed to that assessment. So what does that initial assessment look like for the client?
So at BrightStar Care, we call it our living room visit. Um, so we can typically get those scheduled within 24 to 48 hours, or as far out as the family needs it. And so we come into the home. Of course, we want the client there that we're going to be caring for, and then any of their loved ones that want to be present, who are a part of their day to day, can absolutely be there to learn. And our one of our nurses typically starts by getting a good medical history, a good social history, talking about what that client really wants done in their home. And then we do the kind of paperwork part. If a family has already decided that was the right group for them, then they go ahead and sign all the good stuff there. And we talk about when they'd like to get started. And we can typically get care started again within about 24 to 48 hours. And if they haven't decided yet, then we leave them with their little book of bedtime reading, as we call it, that has all the information on BrightStar Care, as well as just fun information for people to read through when they can't sleep. And then they typically will give us a call back and say, you know what, we think we'd like to move forward with you. And that's when we do the paperwork and get care started. But so it's a pretty simple process from phone call to care start.
And then that form covers all areas of what you do. I mean, it covers the therapy, the anything. Does it assess then what that they need occupational, or that they need the what they thrive, or one of those to come in, or any of that?
So yes and no. The RN makes her suggestions with that assessment. But so for anything that's skilled, we need a physician order. So if we want therapy, occupational speech, if we've got some wounds that need care, we'll talk through those things that the family wants to have done in the home. And then either they can reach out to their physician or we can reach out to the physician on their behalf to get orders for those things, just to make sure that we know everything we're doing is exactly correct the way the physician wants it to be done. And then we can move forward with skilled nursing care.
And is there a typical amount of time that you spend with the patient? Is it like every day, or I guess it depends on the assessment, or?
It depends on what the client wants. So we spend as little as 1 hour with our clients. We don't have any hourly minimums up to 24/7. So we have some clients where really we just see them to take them to appointments, to take them to groceries, for errands. So maybe we see them once a week. We have other clients that we do 24/7 care for. So it really just kind of depends on what the client needs and desires.
I love that it's the continuing of care. It's like my dad in the last few months lived in a memory care facility, and there was a home health agency that worked at a facility, and they met with the staff there to have that continuity so that the people in the building caring for him could communicate with the therapists and that. And so this is a very unique situation that you have that has that ability to communicate across those lines, because you don't typically see that. Someone pays for a caregiver and then they have therapy services coming in, and it's
They've
sort
got
of
wound care coming in here. And so, and a
right.
lot of times that falls on that caregiver who's trying to get a little bit of respite, who's trying to get a little bit of support. And then they have to worry with coordinating 3 different care providers. And so at least here it's all one phone number.
Yeah.
By the way, we lost did you lost consciousness or something? I don't know.
We have your list of
I thought you were going to lead more. That's why I was waiting.
questions. So, yeah, no, I just, it's great learning about the service, and to, our listeners out there who are juggling this to know. And there are smaller agencies, but there's a minimum often, and we talked about that last time when we interviewed Stuart. That smaller companies, because people want to work a set number of hours, they don't want to just work an hour here and there. The larger the company, the more ability you have to be able to provide that hour care at a time. That some people, that's all they need, and they can only afford the minimum of what they need. And so it makes a difference, because you're right, people need to be driven to appointments, people need looked in on medication, shower assistance, all those things that don't take a whole lot of time.
And we're a little bit unique too in that we're staffed 24/7.
Oh,
So someone live and local answers
wow.
our phones 24/7. Just so
Wow.
happened to be my on-call weekend this last weekend. So one of
Okay.
us every weekend, every evening when we leave the office, takes the on-call cell phone home with us. So if you have an issue at 11 o'clock at night, we have 24/7 nursing offered as well. So, if you've got a question, our nurses can get on the phone with you and kind of talk you through, tell you, this definitely sounds like something you should go be seen by a physician for immediately, or it can probably wait until your, primary care is open on Monday, those types of things too. But it's just kind of nice to have that support where when you call, you're getting the voice of someone you know.
That's powerful, because as we all know, just anywhere we call doctors' offices, we're not getting a real person. And I think that probably appeals to a lot of people to know that they can call after
Anytime, yeah.
hours and actually get to speak to someone, and not just a voicemail service who can just take down your information. And yeah, that's very
And it helps us
unique.
provide better care to our clients too, where if a caregiver calls out, late at night for a shift tomorrow at noon, we already know to be working on that at, 6, 7 a.m. People are starting to wake up. So, less opportunity for a client's shift to be missed, even if somebody's sick.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's wonderful. That's, um,
Well, and you uh, Well, I was going to ask, is talk about people, this idea of someone feeling like they've lost, they've failed in their loved one. What would be some of the recommendations you would recommend for somebody that's on this journey, going down this path?
The first thing I would say would be anyone who is feeling like they've failed their loved one, if you're having that feeling, that's really how you know that you haven't failed your loved one. Because someone who's failed, someone who's given up, they're not even asking that question. They're
Yeah.
so far beyond it. So kudos to you if you feel like you're in that place where you're overwhelmed, you feel like failure. The first thing I would say is know that there's help out there, know that there's support. Um, that so we talked a little bit about earlier about, our services are private pay, and that's not affordable for people. But there are other services out there. There's a great program in North Carolina called the PACE program. The greater Charlotte area are specifically a senior TLC, and they do all inclusive care for the elderly. So they're a really great group where if someone's finances don't support private care, we can get you signed, we can get you help through senior TLC. We actually even contract with them. So we do in-home care for some of the senior TLC clients in their homes. So you're still getting care through BrightStar, but it's at a way that's affordable for you. And so many people don't know about the PACE programs, and I fully love and support those programs. I think they're absolutely phenomenal when it comes to senior care. But so I just don't want people to ever feel like there's no answer.
Mhm.
And I don't ever want anyone to feel scared to call, to reach out. If you call somewhere like me, any group, if you just Google home care near me, most of the people who work in this industry, especially in this area, um, we really do it because we love the people that we work with. We want to make sure that we improve the lives of everyone we talk to. And so if you talk to me and my services maybe aren't quite right for you, I'm not going to just hang up the phone on you. And neither are any of my office staff. They all have a flyer that has, if someone's calling looking for these services, here's who to call. So I think if you can just find the time, find the moment, find the little bit of peace to pick up the phone and call, I promise you there's someone that's there to help, even if your first phone call goes to a person who can't.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
No.
just knowing those other resources out there. I know, like my mom got funding through Parkinson's Association local to where they were. They were in South Carolina at the time that paid for so many caregiver hours a week because it can get costly. Even people who can, afford the majority of it, it adds up over time.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you never know when you're caring for an aging loved one, even with a debilitating condition, like how long are they going to live? It's a mystery. Um, and seeing that in picture. So that's great that you share those resources about the PACE program and other funding sources because some people just think I can't afford this. I can't have it and they put it out of their mind and don't even know there's places where they can get funding.
Yeah, there's PACE, there's DSS. A lot of people I think don't know about the assistance they can get through DSS, because that's really need based. It's not income based. So if someone has the need, they're gonna get it. It's gonna take a little bit more time, probably, paperwork that goes with getting support through DSS, but it's something, just kind of another one of those resources people that don't always have at the front of mind.
Well,
Sure.
let me bring just a thought there, because when you say DSS, I think of children.
Yeah,
Does DSS follow into the senior world too?
yeah, they sure do. And so in our Gastonia office, we staff care, in-home care for several DSS clients as well. Uh, Contracted through them to make sure there again that they get that assistance that they need.
Well, that's good to know. I never thought about that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, well,
each county's different and separate, so kind of what they allow is different, but it
Yeah,
is need based.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's out there because I've worked in home care and that. And if you're concerned about someone's living situation, either abusive situation or just they're really their setting at home is not safe. Yeah, that reaching out to them as a support system. So yeah, this conversation has been wonderful, just talking about what BrightStar has to offer, just how you pull together support in different avenues. I'm eager to dig more into learning about the guide program because that could be a big game changer if
It's,
Medicare's going
yeah,
to pay for some caregiver support and services. Because I know I've got patients with VA services and the cutbacks that are happening now, and I need service to care for my wife, although I'm the veteran, but it won't pay for her care, and it's getting frustrating. The changes that are happening, unfortunately, just are affecting people and the services they need. So, what else would you like to share? If there's anything else, people to take away about BrightStar and the care that you guys can provide today?
so I think the biggest thing for me is I always want people to feel like they're not alone. It definitely can feel somewhat that way sometimes, especially when people are juggling caring for littles, caring for aging parents, seniors, seasoned adults, as we sometimes call them. And it's so complex, and there's so much division that we see in the world right now. But I think at our core, human beings are resilient and show up for one another. And I I should learn to do this a little better in my own life. But when you're feeling like a burden, try and pause and ask yourself, if the roles were reversed, would you see this as a burden? Because the answer is probably no. And reaching out for support is one of the strongest things that you can do. It's not a weakness. So wherever you are in your journey, whatever you're doing right now, it's enough, and you are
That's wonderful.
That's beautiful.
And how can, just real quickly, how can they connect up with BrightStar?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go online to find us. You can brightstarcare.com and you can search by zip code. You can also reach out to me by phone, by email, even if, like I mentioned, BrightStar Care, we are a franchise. So if someone's not is in one of the other local franchises, I can also get you connected to those people.
And we'll put all that up on the description too. So, but just wanted to kind of share that. But we really thank you. This I've learned a couple of things just this today alone, which we try to do every day when we do this. But this is great, and the story you told was wonderful too. That I hope your grandmother continues to go down the road of healthcare that she needs and all that.
It's, and it's wonderful that she has you to help provide that support and do it in a way that worked for her because, yeah, that resistance can be um, so powerful. So thank you again for being here today and joining us. And we thank our listeners for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this podcast today. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear comments and feedback. If you've enjoyed this interview today, let us know and let us know other topics that you'd like us to cover. Please check out our website at focusedhealthyfamily.com. Learn how we can assist you on caring for your aging loved one. Every Tuesday night, Don does his EFT tapping via Zoom, so 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can learn about what EFT tapping is and join in on that experience. You can see this as well on our website. You can find us on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family, Instagram, Focused Healthy Family 1, YouTube. Again, if you're listening to this, you can also see all our podcasts now on YouTube. And join us every Thursday when we air a podcast. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.